starting with the economic view, I think the region was very successful with primary products, primarily the extraction of primary products, and obviously that's come to an end with China slowing down, etc. And I think the opportunity was missed to broaden the base of the economies at that time. So I think in a way it's quite a good thing, because I think the mistakes are now being realized. So I don't expect the economies to recover rapidly. I think if they recover, it'll be quite slow. It's going to take a while for Brazil to get out of the mess they're in. But I think what needs to happen is a broadening of the base. And at the moment it's very narrow with basically primary products being extracted. So that will inevitably have an impact on how the market will grow. We're still seeing some growth in the insurance markets, but that's going to remain fairly stagnant, I think, for the next year or two, and then hopefully we might see some growth. On the reinsurance side, I think pricing is getting to quite dangerous levels now. I think there's a over-enthusiastic pursuit of emerging markets, which is going to end up hurting a lot of people. I think we're certainly in the catastrophe markets, we're eroding the catastrophe margin to such an extent. If there's no cat, and we've been very lucky to not really suffer that many cats, that it looks like we're making money as reinsurers. But I think it's an illusion, and I think as soon as we start returning to normal catastrophe losses, allied to normal fire results, I think we're going to start to see how bad the results are. I think allied to that, and not just for Latin America, I think the liability side is very underpriced. We're starting to see the inadequacy of reserves in some markets, and so I think as an industry, we're going to start finding all these problems will start to come together. Obviously, interest rates are very, very low, so there's no investment income. There's great competition not just within ourselves as reinsurers, but with the ILS market. And I think sooner or later, everything's going to come together and start to look really quite poor. So as a top-tier reinsurer, our view is we're invested in Latin America for the long term. We are quite happy with the clients, the portfolio clients we have, but we'll probably just slowly allow some air out of the balloon. We're not looking to grow, and we're going to probably start, or we have started already, by writing less traditional lines in order to allow the traditional market to bottom out and then hopefully start to improve. So we're diversifying, I guess, our product range. We're looking at hardly very innovative new products, but some new type of products. And we're active in all markets, with the exception probably of Venezuela. I think Brazil is quite a good example of how the region is overall. Although leaving aside the catastrophe, prices are very, very challenged there, but there are still niche areas and products that are quite interesting. So again, we minimize our involvement in the traditional kind of treaty products, but we have some interesting niche customers and niche products where we think we can make quite sufficient margin. Yes, it's not. I think innovation is rather overused. We're just trying to change the emphasis of certain products and to broaden the base. We have a number of specialities from engineering through agriculture, etc. But it's just looking at how we can deploy through different insurance companies, niche insurance companies, MGA type platforms, etc. The penetration is very, very low, and I think that's very much linked to the economic success or otherwise of the region, and I think I think in a sense the growth was in the I guess early 2000s was almost too rapid, and it was based on credit, and I think that now we have a bit of a slowdown. I think there can be a more disciplined growth going forwards, and I think that will allow a greater penetration of the insurance market and the insurance sales. Generally, we incorporate that experience into our pricing. We have loads for products that we have loads for perils that aren't modelled. But as we get more experience of those perils, like flood or volcano, we can incorporate those more precisely into our pricing. We tend not to shy away from markets because of catastrophe perils. We tend to think we have enough flexibility in the pricing and we can adjust on a going forwards basis. I've forgotten what I was going to say. But I think that in a sense, the more activity there is, the more interesting it is for us. We're quite used to catastrophe. More specifically, I mean, there is a trend towards buying catastrophe-only quota shares, probably quite challenging pricing. So, for example, it's anticipated that El Nino will transfer into La Nina. So we've tended to avoid some of those kind of quota shares, partly because they're underpriced anyway, but also if it was in Peru during an El Nino year, we would probably minimize our involvement, and now we're looking to minimize some of our involvements in Colombia as it transfers to a La Nina. But the more traditional long-term purchases by our clients, we tend to stick with over the long term because we feel we can adjust things as time goes on. It is something I've been worrying about since Brazil opened, particularly because that's where the real, at a local level anyway, where the real serious risk capacities are deployed. And so we've since 2007, we've been very careful about how we monitor our per risk accumulations, assuming almost the worst, that everybody that we reinsure will be involved on a risk. So it doesn't worry me too much at the moment.